Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 14 quarterback and tight ends must starts as well as must sits. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Today's video is being brought to you guys by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to be talking about them a little bit later. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 14. Crazy to say, it's already week number 14. Feels like the season just started. Quarterback must starts and tight end must starts as well as the must sits. We begin with my number one must-start quarterback of the week, and that is Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Minnesota Vikings this week at home in Detroit. Last week, in week number 13, up against the Jaguars, Jared Goff went off, finishing the week as the quarterback number 4, having 31 completions on 41 attempts for 340 yards as well as 2 touchdowns. And this week, his opponent, the Minnesota Vikings defense, ranks 24th in pass DVOA. So we just saw Jared Goff cook up a 5-star Michelin meal of a game up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it would not surprise me if he does it again up against the Minnesota Vikings. And since the Lions defense is complete and utter dick cheese, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to put up a high point total as well, causing this to be a tit-for-tat, rock'em sock'em robots back and forth affair, in which I think Jared Goff has the upside to be a top 3 quarterback on the week. Next up, we move to Tyler Huntley, quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh this week. In week number 13, up against the Denver Broncos, coming in for Lamar Jackson, Huntley was the quarterback 16 on the week, having 27 completions on 32 attempts for 187 yards and an interception, as well as rushing 10 times for 41 yards and a touchdown. The Steelers defense does rank 14th in pass DVOA, and I'm not saying that this is a cupcake matchup for Tyler Huntley, but honestly, I really do think he will get it done for fantasy football in this game because of his immense amount of rushing upside. Huntley had a game last year where he absolutely dominated the Green Bay Packers. 28 completions on 40 attempts for 215 yards and not 1 but 2 touchdowns, as well as rushing 13 times for 73 yards and an additional 2 touchdowns. This man scored 4 touchdowns against the Packers. Now, do I expect him to do that up against the Pittsburgh Steelers? The answer is simple. It's fuck no, baby. Of course I don't believe that. But do I think that he could throw a touchdown, rush in a touchdown, pass for 200 yards, and have a pretty solid fantasy day? Yes. And that is exactly why I'm targeting him up against the Steelers defense. Next up, we move to the tight end position, beginning with Gerald Everett of the LA Chargers, going up against my Miami Dolphins at home in LA. But is it really a home when a lot of the fans there will be Dolphins fans? Week 13 up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Viva Las Vegas. Gerald Everett was the tight end number 6.5 PPR, 5 receptions on 6 targets for 80 yards. The Dolphins defense ranks 23rd in pass DVOA. Now, looking back at the Chargers versus Raiders game is absolutely hilarious, because how the fuck, knowing what happened last night with how Baker Mayfield, who showed up a day and a half ago, leads the team on a game-winning drive because head coach McDaniels is so fucking incompetent for the Raiders. It is absolutely hilarious. How did the Chargers lose that game? How? The Raiders are atrocious. They are so fucking bad. Hilarious. Gerald Everett, the Dolphins defense is pretty bad against the pass, and the Dolphins defense at home versus away, it is like night and fucking day. At home, the Dolphins defense is like the 85 Bears. Now, obviously, they're not actually that good, but the defense is really good. But away, they're awful. And like I said, this game is in LA, so I fully expect Gerald Everett to put up a very solid score. Next up, we move to my final must-start tight end before we pivot into the must-sits, and that is Greg Dulcich of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Mile High. Week 13 at the Baltimore Ravens, tight end number 4 on the week, tied with Easy E. Evan Ingram, 6 receptions on 8 targets for 85 yards, and the Chiefs defense ranks 26th against the pass. Now, obviously, the biggest downside to Greg Dulcich is his quarterback. Mr. Unlimited has been nothing short of a complete and utter fucking embarrassment. What the team should do to him is do what they used to do in these old school movies where the bully would like somehow tie the underwear of a dude and give him a huge wedgie and then they'd like pull him up the flagpole. You know what I'm saying? That's what the team needs to do to Russell Wilson because this guy is an embarrassment. But ultimately, with Sutton more than likely not playing and so many injuries to the wide receiver position, you would have to think that Mr. Unlimited, despite the fact that the guy has more toilets in his house than touchdowns he's thrown in the NFL this season, that Dulcich is still going to get his, and he still has the upside to be a top-end tight end in fantasy football. Outside of Andrews, Kittle, and Kelsey, there aren't very many tight ends to trust in fantasy football, and Greg Dulcich is one of those tight ends that despite the situation being ugly, gross, pathetic in Denver, I still do think Greg Dulcich is going to have a solid game before we pivot into the must-sits. I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook and click on the link in the video description down below, and you bet $5 on any sport pregame money line, you will receive $150 in free bets if your bet wins. Now, notice how I said if your bet wins, so I'm going to throw it onto the screen right now. I think you guys should be betting on college basketball. So after you sign up, navigate to the college basketball tab, and we are going to go with Gonzaga minus $1,600 on the money line versus Washington tonight. The reason why we go with college basketball is because it has the largest of favorites. We saw yesterday, everyone and their mother thought the Raiders were going to win. The fucking Rams won. But in college basketball, when a team's a minus 1,600 favorite, basically tells you that Gonzaga should easily win that game. So you bet $5 on that, and you receive $150 if your bet wins. Important note, if you live in Maryland, you will receive actually $200 in free bets since sports betting just got legalized there. So make sure you guys check that out again. Link in the video description or in the pinned comment. Now we pivot to the must-sit category, beginning with Ryan Tannehill of the Atlanta Titans going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I know a lot of people are going to be like, Nick, why the fuck is Ryan Tannehill a must-sit? We were already going to sit Ryan Tannehill. Well, there's a lot of people talking up Ryan Tannehill because he's playing up against the putrid Jacksonville Jaguars defense that ranks 31st up against the pass via DVOA. But I will paint the picture here. Call me fucking Picasso as to why you don't want to start him. Week 13 up against the Eagles in Philly, quarterback 22, 14 completions on 22 attempts for 141 yards and a touchdown, 3 rushes for 34 yards. It seems improbable, basically impossible, that Treylon Burks ends up playing in this game. And if Treylon Burks doesn't play, Ryan Tannehill is extremely limited in the weapons category. Again, even though the Jaguars defense, soft as baby shit, Charmin ultra soft, incredibly easy matchup, the lack of weapons is going to do Ryan Tannehill dirty. Plus, I think Derrick Henry might just run for 200 yards, and then they get out of there with a win, a W. At number 2, we have Mystic Mac Jones, quarterback of the New England Patriots, going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Week 13 up against the Buffalo Bills. Quarterback number 23, 22 completions on 36 attempts for 195 yards and a touchdown, 3 rushes for 7 yards. Now, the Cardinals ranked 25th against the pass via DVOA, so there's going to be a lot of people, again, talking themselves into Mac Jones, despite the fact that Mystic Mac Jones has only scored over 15 fantasy points. 1-5, not the hardest mark. I'm not saying, oh, Mac Jones hasn't scored over 25 points only twice this season. Sure, if he scored 25 points twice this season, that'd be good. But he's only scored over 15 fantasy points twice this year. Now, I know people are going to talk themselves into, oh, the matchup, this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, Mac Jones just isn't that good. He's not that guy, pal. So I'm going to, even in a good matchup, fade away. Michael Jordan fade away from Mystic Mac Jones. Next up, we move to Austin Hooper of the Titans going up against the Jaguars. Again, same thought process. People are going to talk themselves into Hooper. Wet dream matchup against the Jaguars. And guess what Hooper's going to do? He's going to shit directly on your chest like Baker did to the Raiders defense last night. Week 13 at the Philadelphia Eagles. Tight end 23. Shout out Michael Jordan in half PPR tie with Foster Moreau, who, Didn't look too good last night. A big dud. Goose egg, 0 points, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 22 yards. He has had one good game all season in week 11, but besides that, he has been absolutely nut low, atrocious. The emergence of Chigozium Okonkwo. Chig is what they're calling him. Chigoziem space. His last name is Okonkwo. Chig. Looks pretty good. And his emergence, him balling out, has really diminished the upside of Mr. Austin Hooper. So again, even without Treylon Burks, let's be honest here, don't want anything to do with Austin Hooper. Final tight end here, we got my guy, sadly, my boy Mike Licky Amagasicki. One of the best nicknames in my repertoire. Going up against the Chargers in LA. Week 13 up against the Niners. Put up a goose egg. Tight end 58. And tight end 58 is where everyone is who scored 0 points. Back-to-back duds. Back-to-back goose egg. 0 fucking points in back-to-back games. And I know, Nick, but the matchup against the Chargers is super good. I love the Chargers. The Chargers matchup is so good. The Chargers are ass. And yes, I know, the Chargers are ass. Mr. Viewer. Mrs. Viewer. But at the end of the day, unless he scores a touchdown, he's going to be irrelevant. And even in this beautiful matchup, this wet dream matchup, this matchup sculpted like a Greek fucking god, I still don't believe in him. And it sucks. I'm a big Mike Gesicki guy. I think he's talented. I think he has all the skills. The problem is, Tua would rather rip one 90 yards down the field to Tyreek, rip one to Jalen Waddle. Gesicki just, look, I hope he scores. I hope he does. I like Mike Gesicki, but he's probably not going to do it. So leave him on your bench. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. Make sure that you check out our sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet $5 on any pregame money line. Again, I suggested during the ad. Gonzaga, minus 1,600 against Washington. So make sure you guys check that out. Bet $5, win $150 in free bets if your bet wins. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.